You know that feeling, right? You walk out of a meeting or a lecture and you realize you can't remember a single key takeaway? Well, you are not alone. Today, we're diving into two fundamental skills that can turn that passive hearing into active learning, listening and questioning. Honestly, mastering them is a true superpower, and we're going to show you how. So let's start with this. This is an amazing idea from Albert Einstein. He basically said, the answer isn't the hard part. The real genius is in finding the right question. This single idea is the foundation for everything we're about to explore. It's all about shifting our focus from just having knowledge to knowing how to seek it.
We have all been there. You're sitting in a lecture, you're in a meeting, and the words just kind of wash over you. You're hearing, sure, but you're not really listening. That's passive learning, and it's a huge barrier to really understanding anything.
There's actually a great name for this state, zombie listening. You know, that mindless, distracted mode we all slip into. The key, the real goal here, is to transform this into active listening, where you're not just a receiver, but you are focused, you are engaged, and you're actively making connections in your own mind.
Okay, so let's dive into this first key. This is about so much more than just being quiet while someone else talks. This is about elevating listening into an incredibly powerful tool for understanding. The framework we're looking at calls this erudite listening. Now, I know it sounds a little academic, but the idea is actually really simple. It's not just hearing, it's a whole cognitive process of listening with a purpose, the purpose to understand, to retain, and to connect ideas. This mindset, it is the absolute bedrock of real learning.
So, how do we actually practice this? Well, there's a brilliant 5-step protocol right here. It all starts with preparing your mind and, getting rid of distractions. But the real game changer is step 4, confirm. Think about it. By paraphrasing what you've heard back to the speaker, you're not just checking your understanding, you are cementing it in your own memory. This simple action turns listening from a passive activity into an active sport.
And here is exactly why this matters so much. According to research from William Glasser, we only retain about 10% of what we read. Just 10%. But look at what happens when learning becomes active. We retain 70% of what we discuss with other people and a mind-blowing 95% of what we teach to others. Just imagine how much more you could learn and remember by simply making that shift from passive to active.
And, that active engagement, it just naturally leads us to our second key, the power of asking questions. When you are truly listening and you're engaged, you start to notice the gaps, the possibilities, and that just prompts you to dig deeper.
But here's the thing, not all questions are created equal. So often, we ask these low-level questions that just require us to remember a fact. The goal is to ask what are called higher-order thinking questions, or HOT questions, which are designed to spark curiosity and lead to much deeper conversations.
Here's a perfect example of a simple recall question. To answer it, all you have to do is pull a memorized fact from your brain. There's no real thinking involved, right? It's just retrieval.
Now look at this question. It's about the same subject, a rainbow, but it's worlds apart. This is not about recall. This demands interpretation, analysis, a search for a much deeper meaning. What do you think it symbolizes? It makes you think.
And this difference, this mental heavy lifting a question requires, is actually captured in a framework. It's called Webb's depth of knowledge, or DOK for short.
The best way to picture it is like a staircase for your brain. Level 1 is just recall, the basic who, what, where. You go up a step to level 2, and now you're applying skills, the how and why. By level 3, you're using strategic thinking. You're looking for evidence. And then at the very top, at level 4, that's extended thinking, where you're synthesizing information to create or design something totally new. So here's the really crucial point. These two keys, listening and questioning, they don't work in isolation. Oh no. They actually feed each other, creating this powerful, self-reinforcing cycle of learning. And this is where the magic really happens. When you start practicing that erudite listening, you just naturally start forming more insightful, higher-level questions. And those powerful questions, in turn, they force you to listen even more intently, more critically, for all the nuance in the answers. It's a beautiful upward spiral of learning.
This cycle, you can foster it in any environment, not just a classroom. You can build what's called a grow and glow culture, where curiosity is basically the currency. I mean, imagine a workplace where great questions are praised, where supportive feedback is the norm, and where intellectual curiosity is actively rewarded. That is the kind of environment that drives real innovation.
Because the ultimate goal, as this quote makes so clear, is to completely shift the dynamic. It's about moving the responsibility for inquiry from the teacher to the learner, from the boss to the employee, creating a room full of active, engaged thinkers who are driving their own learning forward.
So the big takeaway from all of this is that true, deep learning, it's not a spectator sport. It is an active partnership between these two incredible skills. When we master the art of listening to really understand, we unlock the ability to ask the questions that truly matter.
And that brings us all the way back to Einstein, doesn't it? So we'll leave you with this final thought. In your work, in your life, in your own learning, what is the one truly powerful level 3 or level 4 question that maybe you've been avoiding? What's the one question that, if you finally asked it, could change everything?